Here with Colonel Andy Starr. First, thank you for your service.
It's been my honor. 29 years in the Marine Corps, and I'm a Buick car collector and restorer.
Well, this is a very special car. This is 1,000 miles from new, isn't it?
Correct.
So tell us a little bit the history, the story, and how you came to own it.
So this car was originally owned by a GM employee when they retired, when she retired, she bought it and she drove it maybe 6 months and she spun it out. And from that point on, she was scared to death of the car, pretty much. And the car spent the next 34 years in her garage covered up, and they'd start it every once in a while until she passed away. The family decided to auction the car off through a local auction in the small town of Trenton, Ohio. And just by accident, I found out about the auction, and the car barely ran because all the fuel was contaminated, the cylinders were locked up, so it barely ran, but it's like, I'll take a gamble. It's only got 1,000 miles on, I'll figure it out. And it took us about 6 months to go ahead and debug all the electronic problems because, again, it sat there for years. And again, the paint, this is original paint. It's not
really, you
touch-up.
didn't restore this. You didn't repaint this. This is the original GM paint.
This is original
right off the line.
lacquer paint. Now, this car is unusual in the sense, I call it an oops car. Again, as they were going down the assembly line, you had the Grand Nationals, and you also had the T-types. The T-types came in multiple colors. One of the colors in the T-types was rosewood. So when they paint this car, they didn't fully clean out the gun. So this car, if you look closely from rear to front, when it's in direct light, you'll see a little red metallic in it because, it was a black lacquer car. So again, it was kind of a oops car, but GM sold it. And so this car has almost every factory option. The two rare options are it has a digital dash, which had to be special ordered to be put on. It came more frequently on the T-type. I've only seen 5 cars with digital dashes in my lifetime. So again, it took us, we did all the electronics, then anything that had fuel, we cleaned up the original parts, we put them aside, and then we put, new injectors on, everything new, because again, we wanted to save, but we kept all the original components. So it took us 6 months, and then we debuted it at Mistlewood Concourse up at Endicott College. And we were honored and humbled that we were selected as best preservation car. So we take this to shows just to show people just the originality, and people can actually document the originality of the car. So if they're restoring an '87 Grand National. The really cool thing about this car is that really, this was originally, when they came out in '78 with the turbocharged, they were carbureted engines. And the turbocharger just ate the carburetors up. And so they wanted to build a car that was faster than a Corvette. And the slogan at GM or Buick was, "We break for Corvettes." And so they built in '86, which was the second to last year, they went ahead and put a massive intercooler on that. By putting the intercooler on it, it lowered the temperature of the fuel and the air going into the engine. And they also put a bigger ceramic thing in the turbocharger. So the last 2 years, in '87 was the best year as far as the most horsepower. Conservatively, it was 245 horsepower, and the car's only 231 cubic inches. So and again, it was 4.6 from 0 to 60. Just amazing. It smoked the Corvettes, and it was faster than some Ferraris and Porsches that year. So at the time, it was the fastest American production car ever made.
And a V6 and under 6 liters.
Exactly. And these engines are bulletproof. They did a bigger version of this engine, and Al Unser raced it in Indianapolis 500. And again, it was the fastest you know, Indy car, anyone that had the Buick engine in it was the fastest Indy cars, but they never could make 500 miles. Al Unser actually, his failed 2 miles from the finish line, and he was way ahead of everyone.
Well, it's just a high revving car, especially with that turbo, right?
It is.
What's the red line in this?
I be honest, I don't even know.
I bet you it's got to be over 5, maybe. Even
I'm
6.
sure. Yeah, I would think 6,500 or
maybe
68.
even 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a car! What a car! And you know, to preserve it like this and to keep it, show it to people, you know. There was real technology, and there was a lot going on. So all, you know, you tweeners out there, there were actually things that were happening even in the 80s that could make a 0 to 60 in under 5, huh?
So these rims, a lot of people, these are the G&X. That year, Buick made 547 G&Xs, which were 0.2 of a second faster than this. So when we found the car, the original tires were beautiful, but you know they had flat spots because they've been sitting there. So again, from a safety standpoint, we decided to put the G&X rims on. So those rims actually are wider. They're 8 inches vice 7, and they're 16-inch vice 15. And that really gave you better sticking power, because if you really get on it and don't feather it off when you hit it, you'll spin these cars around. So that's why we. And again, these rims look outstanding on the car.
If you didn't tell me, I would have thought they were stock, right? But, hey, I really appreciate you telling us all about this car. It's one of my favorites here, frankly.
Thank you very much.
Keep it up.
Again, thank you for what you folks do at the shows, because without the people out here doing the shows, we don't have shows.
We got to stick together because we don't know how long petrol or gas is going to be available.
We're going to fight for that.
That's right, man. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Dirk with Classic Drive Television. Thanks for being with us. We're going to go check out some other cool cars.
The supercar classes coming up to stage. That would be
That's fine.
fantastic.